Crime Curious is a true crime podcast that takes an in-depth look into real cases through the lens of a trained investigator and former prosecutor turned judge.
If you are sensitive to expletives, anatomical descriptions, and accurate descriptions of crime scenes, this podcast may not be suitable for you.
Are you in need of a private investigator with decades of experience? Crime Curious has teamed up with Corbett Investigations, a top private investigation practice in the greater Indiana area and beyond. Corbett Investigations is run by a former homicide commander of one of the country's most successful homicide units and has put over 400 people in prison for homicide, handled over 1,100 death investigations, and solved 33 cold case murders. Tim Corbett has a whole team behind his services that help him to be successful. They specialize in services like bloodstain analysis, ballistic crime scene reconstruction, and forensic pathology, just to name a few. When you contact Corbett Investigations, you talk with Tim Corbett directly. He is hands-on with every case and can travel anywhere that is needed to get the job done. Corbett Investigations prides itself on honesty, truth, and feet-to-the-ground investigation work, and the strength to stand up to whatever is in the way of solving the crime. Corbett Investigations specializes in complex homicide cases, sex offenses, and criminal investigations, old or new. Tim and his team have a reputation for finding witnesses and information that others could not. Contact Corbett Investigations for a free consultation today at 574-229-8115. That's 574-229-8115. You can also check them out on Facebook at Corbett Investigation Services, Inc. Now, on to the show. Welcome to Crime Curious. I'm Charnell.
I'm Megan.
And Brainbath Jason.
Brainbath Jason gets to come back.
We have great.
We are shaking all of our gree. Jason, that's a different one.
It's a general audience episode. I'll take that. Thank you. We may begin.
Only the Patreons know about that device that you were just doing. Okay, so welcome.
I'm sure lots of people can guess.
Welcome everyone
Lighter.
To it was a vibrating lighter. That's right. Welcome to a regular audience episode, as I'm reminding Jason.
Yep.
Right. I'm bringing us a really messed up case out of our own state. It's so weird. This week's research, or the last couple of weeks' research, have brought me to Michigan
Not
a lot.
Not just Michigan, but local, within an hour, neighboring counties.
It has been very interesting.
So where's this one?
This one's out of Detroit, Michigan, and it's relatively recent. It's from 2011. I'm going to preface by saying that this won't be as long of an episode as we typically do because there just isn't enough information about the case. But it felt to me, when I actually stumbled upon it, it wasn't requested by anybody, that this case just seemed to get lost in the abyss of the dark side of humanity and just chalked up to another senseless murder that happens in a big city because people are capable of horrific things. And I just don't feel like that is fair to the victim. I think that she deserves to have her name said again, that she deserves to be remembered.
And you never know when a lead is going to come out,
yes.
right? So you're giving us an unsolved.
No, it's solved.
Oh, okay.
It's solved.
Gotcha.
But
good.
why?
I'm kind of glad. Sometimes she leaves me hanging, Jason, and I need some closure.
Yeah, we don't have any danglers this time.
Good.
This
Dirty
is
dangler.
Nope. This one's going to be a legitimately solved case. But I could tell our poor victim here, who was a 71-year-old at the time, lovely woman named Margaret Theut. She got, a couple of news stories about her in like the local Detroit news, and then she was just all but forgot. And she doesn't have any living relatives, which just broke my heart even more at the time of her death. And so she has friends to remember her, but now she has all of the listeners to Crime Curious and ourselves to remember her. And she just sounded like such a beautiful person.
You know that you're just creating a spiritual family for her. That's what you're doing right now because you feel bad that she's alone.
Yes, and she should not be.
Oh,
and I'm
ready for her.
I can tell that she was a caring person, and you're going to I mean, I know I don't have a lot of specifics, guys, because, I mean, she was born in Michigan, presumably grew up in Detroit. But other than that, I can't tell you what kind of childhood she had. But I know you're going to feel it, too, that she had a big heart when I give you some specifics that I do know.
Okay.
In the 1990s, Margaret was a retired General Motors secretary who lived for years in a neighborhood 2 blocks from the sprawling Rouge Park. Her next door neighbor was a single mom. And I'm sorry, you guys, I tried to find her name. It was not listed in anything that I could find. Like, it is, as you know, the coverage is a little sparse here, but I did find an appeal court document, so I got a lot of the details from the court document.
Yeah, appellate paperwork lists some pretty good case facts.
Yes. So I have all the right case facts from the court documents, but in terms of our victim's life, I'm just so sad that I wasn't able to get more. But this next door neighbor, she has 2 children. She's a single mom. I don't have her name, but she would leave her 2 children, 8-year-old Theresa and 10-year-old Jesus Alvarez, with Margaret so that she could go to work. Okay? Unfortunately, this woman, this neighbor, she gets breast cancer and she dies when her children are only 8 and 10. So what does Margaret do?
Did she take the kids in?
She did. The court actually awarded, this all happened in 1996, okay? When Theresa is 8 and Jesus is 10-ish. I couldn't find his exact age, but it kept referencing that he was a couple years older than Theresa. So I'm guessing he was about 10. The court awarded custody to the children's maternal grandparents, but the grandparents were not financially stable at all, and they were frequently kicked out of places for unpaid rent, that sort of thing. They had a hard time making ends meet. So with their grandchildren, they would end up living in the very park that was just 2 blocks from Margaret's home, Rouge Park. Okay.
Oh my God, they end up living in that park. It's a huge park, by the way. There's tons of like walking trails. Yeah. It's like miles long. So they're living in the park.
They are. So Margaret and the children's great aunt, Janet Jenkins, they come together. They form a plan to provide stability for these children. Margaret adopts Jesus Alvarez, while Janet Jenkins adopted younger 8-year-old Theresa, which makes sense because Janet is the younger, she's a younger great aunt here. So here we go. Margaret has Jesus, Janet Jenkins has Theresa, and they all lived close. They only lived 5 blocks from one another. So the siblings saw each other. They were well cared for. They spent holidays together, that kind of thing, right? I'm meaning all 4 of them. So Janet and Margaret are friends. Theresa is being provided for by, she was officially, legal guardian, adopted, whatever, of Janet, but she's obviously also being provided for by Margaret as well. So according to court records, actually, Margaret provided Theresa with clothing, gifts, financial assistance well into her adulthood. Jesus was not an easy child, and he does eventually end up in prison for larceny. Okay? Theresa, however, graduated high school, and she ends up being a manager at a Taco Bell. Then, in 2011, she embezzled $2,000 from the Taco Bell that she was managing, and she was convicted.
Okay.
According to CBS News Detroit, she was sentenced to 18 months probation and needed to pay fines. Probably needed to pay the money that she embezzled back.
It's fines, costs, and restitution probation. Mm-hmm. That's honestly pretty typical for a first-time larceny offense, even embezzlement.
Yeah. So this is where shit really takes a turn for the worse, because Margaret had thousands saved up that she planned to donate to charity upon her death, and she had no living relatives, remember. Unfortunately, Theresa knew of this money and I think saw an opportunity to devise a plan to kill Margaret and get the money.
The person who's cared for her.
Yes, that is what I'm telling you.
I hate these cases.
Yes. And this right here, this moment is exactly why I wanted to make sure that we covered it, even if it isn't our typical 45-minute to an hour-long episode. Because
the person that she loved, the kids that she loved to provide care for after they lost their mom super tragically, right?
Yes.
And yes, we know that's going to cause them some trauma. They bit the hand that fed them.
Yes. Well, not they. Jesus is incarcerated for larceny.
I'm sorry.
Just Theresa.
Theresa bit the hand that fed her.
Yes.
Literally.
Yes. So let me take you to Thanksgiving Day, 2011, November 26th. This was the last day that anyone saw Margaret alive. The next day, her car was gone. Her gate was left wide open, which was the first indication to neighbors and friends that something was amiss because she never left her gate open. When a neighbor friend, and this really is what all Margaret seems to have, right, are her community friends, okay, her neighbor friends, which is wonderful. That's not to say that she didn't have a life of love. It's just she doesn't have living relatives. So a neighbor friend decides to investigate further, and this neighbor discovered that Margaret's TV was left on. There's no signs of forced entry whatsoever. And her precious little dog was inside, alone. This is a huge red flag because anyone who knew her knew that she never left her little dog alone. And there's the cutest picture. Her obituary picture is of her smiling with her little white, looks like a little Maltese dog on, like, laying on the couch on her shoulder, like about to give her kisses. It's the cutest little thing. That was her child.
That dog was her life.
Yep. So then Margaret didn't show up for a planned lunch with a friend. And so now the friends are like, something is wrong. She has not been home. She wouldn't leave her dog. They call the police. The neighbor who initially called the police, they wanted their last name to be left concealed, okay, in the news. And remember, this is Detroit, 2011 Detroit. They're not sure what's going on. Like, this is very suspicious. But to confuse things a little bit, the neighbor's name is Theresa as well.
Okay.
So I will try to use first and last name when I'm talking about Theresa Alvarez.
You can anonymously report a crime, but they know who it is reporting the crime. I mean, depending on where you're calling from.
Right.
And there isn't a legal right to be anonymous in that type of a situation, like with a 911 call.
Yeah, it was more. It was to the news. They didn't want her last name in the news.
Well, then you're just given a quote.
Yeah, they did not. Yes, and
so they might agree to keep it anonymous.
And they did, and we'll understand more in just a little while.
Okay.
In the opinion of the friends, the police did not try very hard to find 71-year-old Margaret at first. So they took it upon themselves to watch her house. They took her dog in, and they just really hoped that she would return. While Margaret's neighbors were looking for her and her missing vehicle, because remember I told you her vehicle is gone, unbeknownst to them, Theresa Alvarez was driving the vehicle, showing it to friends, and claiming that she had inherited it from Margaret, who had sadly committed suicide by overdosing on pills. What police and friends at this time did not know, also, is that prior to this, it was really the day after Margaret was last seen that Theresa Alvarez starts driving this vehicle. But what police didn't know at the time is that Theresa had been telling her friends for at least 3 weeks before Margaret went missing that Margaret had killed herself. She even dressed up in black dress clothing and told friends that she was attending Margaret's funeral.
That never existed.
Right. So when she suddenly shows up with Margaret's car and her purse, which contained her identification, credit cards, and all that cash that she had saved up to donate to charity. Now, do you understand why I'm saying this woman had a heart of gold? Obviously. Yeah. The purse was in the trunk of the car. It didn't appear suspicious to those that knew Theresa Alvarez because she had been pre-planning this for weeks. She had told them that Margaret sadly died of an overdose on pills, and so now she's just showing up with her inheritance, right? She attended the fake funeral, and now this is my inheritance. So go back to the day that Margaret's friends notice that she's missing. In the early morning hours of that following day, November 27th, a witness saw what appeared to be Margaret's automobile stuck near a marshy area of Rouge Park, a park only a couple of blocks from her home, as well as what appeared to be a tarp that was left near the car. The witness believed that the driver of the car was a 6-foot male. The car had to be towed out of the area that morning, And within hours, Theresa was in possession of Margaret's car after having it professionally cleaned. Theresa is questioned. She admits to being with Margaret Thanksgiving night, the last night anyone saw her alive. She admits to having a key to her home. Police also had Margaret's phone records that showed that Theresa Alvarez had placed several calls to her that day that she went missing, but suspiciously she had used a phone code to block the identity of who was calling her. So Margaret wouldn't have been able to see that it was Theresa that was calling her. Apparently, Theresa maybe thought that then would also throw the police off, like the police wouldn't be able to see what phone it was really coming from, and it does not. So Theresa Alvarez also gave multiple explanations of her whereabouts the night that Margaret disappeared.
Creation of an alibi here.
Mm-hmm. When asked during a police interview to explain what happened at Margaret's home on the night of her disappearance, all of a sudden Theresa states that it's her fault, that she might as well die in prison, and that if she had not gone to Margaret's home that night, she would still be alive. Then, in another police interview, which this one was attended by Janet Jenkins. Remember her? She was the one who officially was Theresa's legal guardian when Theresa was a minor. Theresa indicated to Janet that if she told the police what had happened to Margaret, Janet Jenkins herself would be in danger of physical harm. So it's basically like, I could tell you, but I'd have to kill you sort of thing. Like, if I tell you, someone else will kill you. So Theresa maintains that she did not kill Margaret, but her conduct and her statements provided strong circumstantial evidence that she clearly had something to do with Margaret's death.
Do we have an autopsy report?
I'll get to it. We don't have Margaret's body right now.
Right. Okay. So we know that she could have planned with someone, colluded, murder for hire, or a boyfriend. Those things happen all the time. Like, hey, help me kill my quote unquote mom, my caregiver, right? Mm-hmm. So, and we covered a case similar. Mm-hmm. That was an actual mom and daughter that was heartbreaking out of Miami.
Yes.
That was like this. So, okay, I'm going to wait and see what.
At this point in time, she's making these statements both to Janet Jenkins during her police interview.
To me, she did it.
And two different interviews. She is saying, this is my fault. I might as well die in prison because if I hadn't went there that night, Margaret would still be alive. And the police are like, whoa. We're just interviewing you about the disappearance of Margaret.
Yeah. What are
we
you
don't have a body.
About?
We don't know.
Well, she sold herself out.
Mm-hmm. So police are like, and the other thing that the police aren't telling Theresa Alvarez at this point in time is that inside the home, there was blood on Margaret's pillows and blankets in her bedroom. Okay, so a reasonable person can assume that some harm came to Margaret. DNA was collected. Here's the thing. There was no DNA samples on file for Margaret. So when the DNA came back as an unknown female, again, a reasonable person can conclude that since this was her bedroom and her bed linens and she's missing, that this unknown female is more than likely Margaret. Okay? So Theresa is arrested due to her conflicting statements, and the Impala, Margaret's car, was seized. And despite the professional cleaning, when the police recovered it, it was still partially covered in mud and grass, which, remember, a witness that I haven't told you yet, but the witness that saw Margaret's car stuck in that mud and grass near Rouge Park was one of Margaret's neighbors looking for her.
Okay.
So this person stood back and took detail of description of who was driving the car.
She describes a tall male as being in there.
A 6-foot male.
So someone else is knowledgeable about the situation.
Yep. There were also gloves found in the car with 3 different people's DNA on them. Okay. Soon after her arrest, Theresa tells her boyfriend, Dante Hardman, that Margaret was dead. Now, at this time, there is no body, you guys. So if she didn't have anything to do with it, she didn't kill Margaret, then how does she know she's dead? Why is she saying that? As for Dante, because I'm sure we're all wondering, He told police, and it was corroborated, that he was with his mom at her home. Because remember, the last day she was seen, guys, was Thanksgiving Day.
Right. So he was at his mommy's on Thanksgiving.
He was spending Thanksgiving with his family. And so he's not a suspect at this point in time. And he actually said, I left that night. I left my family's home. I was expecting Theresa to come home, and she never did. When she did,
he easily could have left Thanksgiving dinner to go help her dispose of the body after she killed her basically foster mom.
What I don't know, what was left out of the court records, because he is no mention as a person of interest in this. And they do talk about in the court records about another person clearly being involved.
Okay. Because I just feel it. So it may not be him, but I'm just feeling there's an additional human involved in this.
And what I don't know is, did they have other roommates? Is there a reason why he was definitely, because he testifies against her.
Okay.
In the court hearing. So does Janet Jenkins of what, she told him.
Were they able to match any of the other DNA that was found in the car?
No. So he is saying, I expected her to come home. She didn't. When she arrived the next morning, she was driving this Impala. It was covered in mud and grass. And she explained to myself and to others that she had inherited it from Margaret. He told police Margaret's purse with all of her effects in it were in the trunk, and I saw her take out hundreds of dollars from the purse. So there's ample evidence to suggest that another person was involved in Margaret's murder, and that is right in the court documents. We know that there was a man seen driving. And also, here's the other thing. The witness said that this was a 6-foot man. I don't know how tall Dante is. So it's very possible that even the description of the stature didn't match. Maybe the ethnicity didn't match. Not sure.
It doesn't say. Okay.
Yep, did not say. But so we know, like, someone else was driving Margaret's car, and they possibly left a tarp in Rouge Park shortly after Margaret's disappearance. DNA evidence from the gloves found inside the Impala demonstrate that at least 3 people had come into contact with them. One of them, unknown female, very likely, Margaret. These were probably her gloves, right? Leading to a conclusion that 2 people used the gloves either while killing Margaret or when disposing of her body. And then the spring of 2012 happens. Approximately 6 months later, Margaret's body was found by a mushroom hunter, which many of the articles said by a hunter. And I was like, well, that's interesting that there would be hunters
in a Detroit City park.
Right.
Yeah. No, not over by River Rouge. It was clearly mushroom. And we grow lovely morels in Michigan.
Yeah.
Different colors, different times, and you go hunting mushrooms. And so it does not surprise me that people would go mushroom hunting in the city.
The court documents did clarify that it was
for that
a
fact.
mushroom hunter. Mm-hmm. And they found her body underneath a black tarp in a marshy area at the northern end of Rouge Park. So completely corroborating that witness's account of, I saw in this marshy area of the park Margaret's car. It got stuck. It had to be towed out. And there was a black tarp not far from it.
But 6 months later, how come after that piece of information came in, they didn't go out to attempt to corroborate what had been
As
stated?
you said, it was a large park. I don't know, Megan. I had the same thought myself. Well, but remember, at the beginning, I did say, friends were very clear in news articles that they did not feel that the police were always
taking this seriously.
Yes, because she was 71 years old, and they've got a lot of crime. Very high crime area.
Yeah. It's just, delay in information or delay in investigation can always be an issue. You would have, if there was that much mud and grass on the vehicle, you would have been able to see tire tracks and evidence of like where in this marshy area in the park she might have been.
Yes. Yeah. By this time, all that remained of Margaret's body was partial skeletal remains, and a precise cause of death could not be established. So her identity had to be confirmed by dental records. That makes it even more difficult, right? Not being able to pin down the cause of death. Was it strangulation?
She was poisoned. What? That girl didn't come up with drug overdose in her own head
But
because
there
this
was-
woman had no history
I
of
was
anything
just
like
gonna
that.
say
She
she-
shoved a bunch of pills down
might-
her
she
throat.
might have
and
tattled.
she probably coughed up
Or
some
poisoned
blood.
her food. It was Thanksgiving or her drink,
Yeah.
but they're not able to get a tox back on her.
It's just partial skeleton. It's
That
not even
was-
her
Tox-
full
I mean, you can
skeleton.
I mean,
tox
Theresa doesn't
reports.
sound like a brilliant criminal, but that would set the ground for if they tested, be like, oh, she had these toxins in her. Yeah, because she overdosed.
But she only has skeletal remains.
Right. But
yeah.
maybe she was,
But she was
Theresa was planning
telling
ahead.
people that she OD'd.
She's like, yeah, she OD'd.
was.
So if they did
She
find her
committed
body, she'd be like,
suicide.
oh.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good thought. I think that's a good idea of what happened just based off of her own admissions before she was caught.
That's my theory.
I like it.
I feel like she
I like
either
that.
poisoned her at Thanksgiving dinner, or when she fell asleep, she took a handful of pills and tried to shove them down her throat, or with some help, probably.
Well, I was just going to say,
With
there
some
could have
help.
been a second person, and we know there's two DNA in those gloves, two that weren't Margaret's.
I
Yeah.
can also see an asphyxiation thing here. Maybe she could have been a pillow smothering
What
type
was
of thing,
the-
but
the-
I don't think
did
blunt
they-
force trauma, at least not enough to be able to, because if it was hard blunt force trauma, you would
It'd be
have
a
some
skull
mark.
fracture
Yeah,
or
you're at
something.
least going to see fractures on
Especially on
bones, and that's
old.
what was left. Soft tissue issues, and if she's missing organs with that asphyxiation piece or strangulation, you're not going to see.
Yeah, I mean,
Did
they
they
were
connect-
obviously the partial skeletal remains contained her head, and I'm sorry to be crass because they compared dental records.
Right.
Yes.
So I agree with you. I don't think it was blunt force trauma, because at least not enough to have caused damage to the skeletal
Right.
piece.
Did they connect the blood on the bed to Margaret? Did we say that?
No, because
Well-
they don't have any of her DNA.
It was
didn't-
somebody. They were circumstantial evidence, right? It was Margaret's house. It was Margaret's bed. Margaret's now missing, and the blood that was found there wasn't in the system. I think we know where she died.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's Margaret's, and she was killed in her bed.
So like I said, I think they either suffocated her and she struggled and there's some bleeding.
Or did she poison her at the kitchen table?
Right,
She
and then
went
she
to go
coughed
lay
up
in her
some
bed,
blood.
and there was blood. I mean, any of
Yeah.
those.
Yep. Well, regardless, Theresa is charged with second-degree murder and felony murder and was tried in Wayne County in 2013. The evidence that I've already told you came forward during that trial, as well as Janet Jenkins and Dante, boyfriend, all testifying for the prosecution. In fall 2013, the jury found her guilty of both charges for second-degree murder and felony murder of the woman who had helped provide for her for the last 17 years of her life since she was 8 years old. On December 11th, 2013, she was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. She did appeal that in 2014, which was the appeal I was able to review for this research, and it was denied. What she was mostly appealing is that she shouldn't have been charged with both felony murder and second-degree murder. And so they went through all the facts of why that was that they could do that and upheld it. What's really scary to me is that clearly there is ample evidence to suggest that there is a second person involved here who's never been charged, and Theresa still maintains that she did not kill Margaret. Her statements haven't changed about if I hadn't went there that night, Margaret would still be alive, but she still maintains that she did not kill Margaret.
And facing life imprisonment, she won't give up a name.
No.
And is she
Because-
I would have been in
remember-
the back of the courtroom jumping up like, Your Honor, it's this guy right here. He
Yes.
did it.
But hold on. Remember,
Yes.
she told Janet Jenkins, the person who adopted her, if I tell you about this, your life will be in danger. And so, as fucked up as this is, that she was willing to take Margaret's life because for a purpose. Margaret had some money. She wanted that money, right?
She found
She
some
wants
shady
to-
people in the neighborhood.
She wants to
I've been up
protect
there. It's-
Yeah.
Janet. She wants to protect. Stop
I'm
moving the
trying not
microphone.
to.
She wants to protect Janet, who, also helped raise her. And it's so fucked up all the way around. I can't.
There's clearly an accessory, possibly after the fact, if not an actual co-conspirator to help or assist with the killing. But I'm just getting the vibe that she didn't need any help killing her, that she was able to kill her on her own with pills or poison or some other, what do they call them, like women's methods of murder?
Right. But she would have needed help.
I don't think
disposing
I
of
don't
the
think
body.
she physically killed her.
I do.
I don't. She's still she's not denying that she's not making statements that she denied anything to do with it. She's saying, I didn't kill her.
Well, what she's saying is, had I
she
not
was
went there that
No,
night,
she said, had I not went there that night, she wouldn't be dead.
Right.
she'd still be alive.
She probably took a friend with her that
She
killed
took
her.
herself there.
She took a
You're
friend.
right. If you wouldn't have gone there that night, Margaret would be
She told one
alive.
of her shady friends, I know this old lady, she's got a lot of money.
But she
And they-
didn't.
she took
had
a friend.
couple thousand
She said,
bucks.
hey, it's
Right, it
Thanksgiving.
wasn't.
Can my friend come with me? And she's like, sure. Bring
That
your
might
friend.
be the case too.
She brought a friend. Friend
Okay.
killed her. And,
I
then
still-
and she helped get rid of the body. She
that's
took her car.
true-
She took her money.
If that is true, and they conspired, and she had somebody else kill her instead, she's still equally guilty of
Right.
felony murder and second
Sure.
degree murder. So the felony murder piece is just committing a murder in the commission of a felony. And I'm interested to know what the felony was that they alleged, because it can be a number of things. I mean, you can have the actual assault, you can robbery.
Yeah, it was.
Kidnapping?
No,
Is it the robbery?
They specifically said that. It's because she had
She
her
went
purse
for the money
car.
and took her money.
And I love that. And that's what it is. That's why if you go in with the intention to rob a bank and a shot is fired because your friend that's wearing
Intentional or not.
absolutely.
Yep.
The murder committed in the commission of a felony is felony murder.
Right. And that's why they had Dante come and testify. Did you see her in possession of Margaret's purse? And you saw her take
Man, I have more
Dollars-
questions for Dante. Though.
dollars out.
You
So-
know, she's finding some shady person to come, but not the person who she basically has been living with, Dante, who then doesn't find it weird that she didn't come home from Thanksgiving.
But
and
maybe Dante is more of a straight and narrow type of guy, and she knew he wasn't going to be willing to help her get rid of Margaret's body.
Could totally be the case. And I didn't sit through the trial either. But again, you find persons of interest and they just stick out to you as someone you might like to know more from.
Yeah, and like I said, what resonated with me was there's a specific description by this neighbor, and this is, by the way, why the neighbor wanted to remain anonymous to the media, because they're the neighbor who was out looking for Margaret and witnessed her car being stuck in the mud with a tarp not far away and some random 6-foot guy, right? So with all of it of Theresa Alvarez saying, hey, Janet, I can't tell you what really happened because then your life will be in danger. They didn't want
She
their
knew
stuff.
shady people and she called a fixer. So when
Yes.
whatever happened in the house, she had them drive her own, Margaret's car.
Yeah.
Because she wasn't alleged to have been seen there. There wasn't a female alleged to have been seen in the car.
No.
It was a 6-foot something
just
male.
just the male. But that's what made me wonder, because it was so specific by that witness, if that was part of the reason also why Dante was not considered a person of interest. What if Dante's 5'7"?
Probably.
And
she
just
called Saul.
so yeah, I mean, truly, I do think she was capable of murdering Margaret, but both scenarios could be very likely. It's Thanksgiving. How many times have people been like, my friend is alone on
Absolutely.
Thanksgiving, so can they come have dinner with
And
us?
of course, Margaret would let someone.
Of course
Oh,
she
you
would.
have nowhere to be?
Yes.
Oh,
I'm just
I'll feed
comparing
you.
to
This is
that
what she does.
mother-child situation where you would think anybody wouldn't kill you. It is your own child with whom you are close. And she literally wanted to run off with her boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And your
that
daddy
did
was in
happen.
prison. So she killed her fucking mom. She killed her mom. Like, and with almost no warning. Like, there hadn't been
No, she walked
bad
through the door.
relationship, bad blood.
It
There'd
does
been some
happen.
arguments, right?
Yep.
But that was it. And so she just knew this was a person who had no family, who wouldn't necessarily be missed,
Yeah.
who had taken care of her.
But you know what?
Women can do shitty things.
We do miss Margaret. Margaret, may you
The
rest in peace.
Absolutely.
Her community
family,
misses her.
community. Agreed.
Yes.
You deserve better, Margaret.
That's
Tiny
right.
little dog who I hope found
God.
a home with one of the neighbors.
The neighbor
that
friend.
loved her.
Yep.
Yeah.
The neighbor friend did take the dog and whatnot. But oh gosh, it's just so sad. So there it is. There is the beautiful memory of Margaret Theut. When I say beautiful, I don't mean the way she left this world. I meant her
soul.
clear intentions of trying to be a good human being and do good for other people here. So yeah. Okay. Now we need a brain bath.
Okay.
Okay, on some of our Patreon episodes lately, we have been doing the Am I the Asshole coverages, which are so fun.
AITA.
Yes, and so sporadically we come back, to them. But I have one of my own. And I know what my soul would have done, but it didn't do it. And so I don't necessarily think I'm the asshole, but I didn't handle this. I let my ego handle it instead of my soul. How's that? Okay. It just happened last night.
So you want me to tell you whether your soul or your ego is an asshole?
Yes, my ego. I know my soul's not an asshole, but my ego had a moment last night. My ego had a moment. But you'll tell me if maybe it was justified. Like maybe I'm not the asshole and the other person is.
Okay.
But women's restrooms at like a bar or a brewery. We were at a little concert that was happening at a brewery near us, and I was not drinking because I was the driver. So there's that. I was very, very sober. Everyone else, of course, was not.
And that is always you're always at an instant. You're not going to be in the same mental place that they are.
No. And the ladies' bathroom is usually the most positive place in a drinking establishment, right?
I've told you this before, Jason, how positive the ladies' bathroom is.
Everyone
We're all there to encourage.
They do. They
men's
so
bathrooms
friendly.
are gross and dirty, and if you don't talk to them and you don't speak, you don't make eye contact.
We compliment each other's hair, outfits, like
ask if you have a tampon.
Yeah,
you get throat punched if you compliment someone in the men's bathroom.
No,
well, I can only imagine what it's like to be holding that particular part of your body and
eyes on your own work there, Super Chief.
Well done, sir. Super Chief.
Right. I get it. Although last night I did have, because there was such a long line, I did on 2 occasions have women offer for me to come into the stall with them to make it faster. Like we would share. And I was like, no, I'm good. I've got shy bladder. So like I can barely pee in a private stall by myself. So
you've had women invite you into their stall?
Yes, it's just like a thing.
Also, let me tell you what happens in the men's room when someone invites you into their stall. Just don't.
No.
Okay,
Hard pass.
The situation she's giving you is typically socially acceptable when it is your child, your sister, your best friend that you're with at the bar anyway.
Yes.
Okay,
like
not
if I
like
went
a stranger.
Well,
no, honey, it was 2 strangers.
So this is
that's
different.
where I'm confused.
They were drunk. I would go into a stall with Megan.
Well, I figured you went into an outhouse with Liz.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Which is
That's
even
the
weirder.
perfect
And that's so
situation.
gross and dirty.
Right.
But
Which that's why you brought her.
But if she accidentally tooted while she was like peeing,
Oh,
I'd
God.
have to be sworn to secrecy, and I might not make it out. She'd probably kill me and leave me in the
Seriously.
bathroom, like an episode of Bones.
I would make you sign in blood that you're not going to tell anyone.
NDA written in your own blood.
You haven't listened to the episodes we did without you last week yet.
No,
but
I have to listen.
I
still.
actually said if I ever take to farting.
If I ever take to farting,
Pick it up as a hobby.
you would explode if you don't, Charnell. So
Right.
it's fine.
Right.
Anyway,
Yes, so
we haven't got to your asshole yet.
We're in but we're in
General audience, Jason.
Oh, sorry.
but we're in the bathroom. So that my asshole does come into play. No, this woman, she was talking about how she hadn't found any good drinks at this brewery that we were at. And they had quite a big selection. And I had tasted, one of my friends had ordered a cucumber seltzer.
Ooh, yum.
It was amazing. Like that's, if I go back to drink there, that's what I'm going to order. They were 5% alcohol, really light and refreshing. Like I had a couple of sips of it. I'm like, that is amazing. Then our whole table ended up ordering them. So I pipe up to this girl and I was like, oh, you should try their cucumber seltzer. She looks at me and she goes, I don't drink seltzers because I'm not a basic white girl. And I have never, ever experienced negativity in the women's bathroom by drunk people before. And ego Charnell came out. And I'm not kidding you. I slowly looked her up and down with her messy bun, sweaty white woman in a fucking Death Leopard t-shirt that was 3 sizes too small for
She's
her.
describing me.
Right.
And I said slowly, and I'm painfully slowly looking her up and down, and I said, oh, could have fooled me.
I love you.
And I left it at that.
Okay,
Because I was attacked. I felt attacked. But then I'm like, my soul was like, Charnell.
No. You are not the asshole because she elicited that response.
She struck first,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
She was referring to you as a basic white girl.
Absolutely.
Like there's a laundry list of
okay?
things I would have said, not just you could have fooled me, but like that was the
Yes.
bare minimum you could have done, and you're not the asshole.
You probably should have seen my face. Like
I'm sure.
I
I've
went
seen it.
up and
Yeah.
down and was like letting her know, now you've turned on the judgment in me, and I'm
Like
gonna
if-
assess what I'm seeing. And you have mascara in the corner of your eyes, get the goop, get that out. That's a bad look. Like I was everything. I was suddenly noticing everything about this
no,
bitch.
seriously, because first of all, I might say something like that to you because you know how I actually feel about seltzers.
Right, yes.
You're a closet basic white bitch.
I don't like them at all. I liked the one
except for the ones. Yeah, there's a few and far between.
Yeah, that's the first seltzer I've ever drank that I like. Except, do our vodka seltzers count?
Those carbless ones are seltzers.
So I think they're growing on me. But again, when somebody comes at you like that, she was saying she didn't find anything she liked. You offered a really nice solution because you're friendly like that, and then you were met with something that was clearly meant to insult you.
And she doesn't know anything about me.
You're like, no problem, sweetie. I hear they sell natty daddies at the store next door. You look like you fit right in.
Right.
So again, I would have had a hard time not responding. So you could have fooled me is the nicest thing I would have said. But
you can get your Virginia Slims and PBR down the street.
Hey, I like PBR.
She's probably like, I smoke American Spirit.
Natty. Right. Parliaments.
Yeah,
right.
It was
Parliaments.
She was in a rough state. Like I could see that she was, and she was wearing her drunkenness on the outside.
Do you know what would have made
so
you feel
clearly
better?
she found something they like to drink.
Yes.
Oh, well, I know. Well, she was trying to tell me that she hadn't been drinking,
Not
which
fair.
is always
She's drinking natty daddies at the store.
that's just it. I was like, you're definitely drunk. Of course, actually, she may have been high because I could smell people smoking weed all night long too. She might have been high. I mean, her state. So sorry for the judgment that she was drunk. But.
Your soul would have felt better if your brain would have reminded you to have gone, well, bless your heart.
I know, right?
There we are then.
Yes. Well, you are welcome for the advice, or just, bless your heart and then turn around and walk away. Because that's what I see you doing in those most of the time social situations.
Yes.
If you want to make your point that someone has been rude and that everything that they're saying is just not good, you do the bless your heart, sweetie.
Right.
Well, you have a nice night.
The girl next
I do hope you have better luck someplace else.
I hope you have the evening you deserve.
I hope you have the day that you deserve.
The woman next to me literally didn't know her. She literally clutched
touch you?
my forearm. Yes, she was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like she just, because she said it with venom, like she has, I think that some woman drinking a White Claw stole her man at some point in time. And that's where this was coming from. But she didn't need to spit it at me. And I walked
Maybe
out
it was
of
her man drinking the White Claw. Maybe there's some other feelings that she's having.
I can end this. I can wrap this up right now.
This is still general audience.
I know. Why is it I can say have a nice day, but I can't say enjoy your next 24 hours?
That is one of my favorite sayings. It's just all, and I think some of it's all in how you say it.
Yeah. Enjoy your next 24 hours. Not enjoy your next 24 hours.
Sometimes I've told people to have a nice day in a way that makes it sound exactly like your
like
nice
I
day.
Don't want you to have a nice day.
That's why you say have the day you deserve.
I have, and I've said it on the record.
I have said that before to people. Yeah. Have the day you deserve. I've actually said it positively too.
Deserve.
Like after a really beautiful conversation with someone, I will say, I really hope that you have the rest of your day, that you have the day that you deserve because you're a beautiful soul.
And I think this way that you're saying it is so not how most people say
right.
it.
Yes.
Right.
I think you might be right.
I say it totally different.
She's saying that after a spiritual session, she's doing like an energy reading and she's telling people this. And I'm looking at someone and saying, have the day you deserve, as I'm in traffic flipping them off. Yeah.
Right.
Just totally different.
I know it's hard being a human. And I did have
We're still learning.
A weak human moment. We sure are. Yeah. But so thank you. That makes me feel better that I'm not totally the asshole.
You're not
but
an asshole.
My soul was like, you could have just not pulled it that one. You could have let it go.
No.
You could have let it go.
That was a snarky soul moment.
It was.
But you were not an asshole.
She did just walk out after that, though. She didn't say. She said no more, which was perfect.
Could've
That's what needed to
fooled me.
happen.
Yeah.
It was a bad look. But
I stare
anyway,
at people. It makes them uncomfortable when they've
know.
said something like that.
Jason,
I'm aware.
I know.
It's the look. And it's the look that my kids will say, oh, God, it's so scary. It's just that
Honestly,
staring into your soul moment while I'm thinking of the appropriate thing to say, but melting your brain like a scene from Indiana Jones is what I'm hoping that look will result
Honestly,
in.
that for me was more than the actual words that came out of my mouth. It was me being 100% aware of the look that I gave her, because my looks can be scary sometimes.
Can you imagine what could have happened if I was with you in the bathroom and she said that to you?
No, she'd still be in the bathroom. Yeah. No.
I don't assault people. I don't
the
need
girl
to,
next
but
to
it was
me
bad.
touched my arm like, this bitch just said that. Like, I mean, I
Guys.
think she was even ready to like defend me if I couldn't defend
I
myself.
think that
was
if
funny.
my friend was so drunk that she said that too, if I would have apologized, I would have been like,
right.
I'm really sorry for her, and been like, girl,
yeah,
come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Like, you can't, that is not what the girls' bathroom is for.
To be honest,
She
with
didn't know
you,
the rules.
It was an interesting being stone sober in such a loud, chaotic environment. It was interesting watching human behavior because we were walking.
Now we know why Jason gets mad at us.
We were walking by a table and this lady had to scoot in a skosh. And if you don't know the proper measurement of a skosh, I'm talking, it's so like you could just inhale a breath.
For a chair, it's like
Yep.
a quarter of an inch.
It's
just
so
This is make it look like you're moving.
yeah, it's so
right.
minuscule.
You just arch.
And I really we really just needed her to arch to do that so that we wouldn't hit her head. She had like a ponytail, I didn't want to touch her hair, right?
I'm like coming in like Rodman, just throwing elbows at people.
Yeah, no, we were walking by her table and she just needed to go in like a skosh. And so my friend, my sister-in-law actually walks in, first, and she was clearly intoxicated, right? So she wasn't being delicate about it, but so the lady sucks in and she's like, it's okay. That's just my coat on the floor. And I was like, well,
Did you want to pick it up?
we didn't step on it and maybe you should pick that up.
Yeah.
But she was so inconvenienced by having to suck in a little bit of breath and arch to get out of the way. And then she noticed her coat was on the floor.
You don't know what it's like to be a bigger girl.
And it was
Sometimes
like-
you can't just suck in.
Like,
I
she
saw-
was so
reminded me of a
outrageously
sticker I saw.
mad
I
over
remind
this.
you of a sticker you
No,
saw.
I said remind me of this sticker I saw.
Okay.
But yes.
All right.
But also yes.
But also, yeah.
But also, yes.
But it was on the side of a driver's side back seat window, and it said, "Please don't park so close. I'm thick."
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I like
want that.
those.
I thought it was great.
Yes, I think that is great. Like, hey, I have a really hard time getting out of this. Like, I actually do like
Not
that.
that you have a hard time getting out of your car.
No,
Depends
but-
on how I park. If I do, it's my own fault.
Yeah.
Or someone who's been in it, then you just leave the sticker. My grandma.
I still have those that you gave me.
Oh, do you? Okay.
I've only used one.
All right. Yeah, have you? You gonna tell the people what I gave you?
For Christmas, I got these little business cards that I think it just says you're a dick. Like with a middle finger on it.
Yeah.
And I definitely put one on a guy's parking, like on his windshield.
I think when Xeroxing
Lord.
became a thing for the elderly, and my grandma still had access to one at her previous employment before she retired, she printed off these little signs of Bugs Bunny, but who had clearly been mutated into giving somebody the finger. And this little thing said, "Hey, asshole, next time leave a can opener so I can get out of my car."
Yeah.
And she would keep those in her car. I'm not saying I ever saw her use one, but I'm just saying she had them in her car.
Someone thought that just because they drive a truck, they don't have to abide by the lines in a parking lot, which we won't get into how horribly intensely I have to abide by the yellow goddamn lines.
I
Excuse
am
me,
always
general audience.
within the lines, but I will admit that with my big ass Suburban, sometimes I do encroach. I am very close on the line to the point
if you're
that
close to the
I
sides,
wouldn't park next to me.
If you're close to the sides, I can accept that. But when you go like a foot and a half across the front of it,
Oh,
so the person on the
no.
other side can't pull fully into the
And
parking
you
lot,
think
the
you-
spot that looked available.
yes.
Yeah, that's bad.
They got
Yeah,
the, they got
'cause
the
You're
bus-
they're the asshole.
they got the
asshole.
business card.
Yeah. Okay. I like that.
Yeah,
for
they're
you.
the asshole there. I get that.
I'm gonna go back to that store. By the way, I think you need some more.
Anyway, thank you all so much for listening and supporting us. And we hope that you,
Keep it curious.
Keep listening.
until next time,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.